What's up guys, Sub-Zeric here, back for another talky type video, though I got a VOD playing in the background, because I know you guys need some kind of visual stimulation. Today we're doing a video because there's a B patch coming out today. If you guys saw my video yesterday on the NAR comp, you saw how strong that comp can be. If you saw just stats from this patch, you can see some crazy stuff going on here. I'll pull it over just real quick, but some crazy things from the start. Zaya at a 3.7, the next 5 cost is a 3.9, so very, very out of line. You can also see Gnar up here with all of the 5 costs, so you can already tell that's out of line. Also, if you scroll down a ton, you can find Irelia all the way down here. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on this patch. A lot of things that are just kind of out of line immediately after the patch. Also, augment-wise, obviously the Dryad augments are outperforming. Built different, one of the best augments in the game immediately, because, I mean, they gave huge buffs to it. Buffing all the 4 costs makes built diff a ton better. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about TFT, the state of TFT, and the state of just like B patches in general. I don't actually know what I'm going to call this video yet. Everybody's like, you should come up with a video name and thumbnail before you even make your video, but like, come on, who actually, I mean, some people probably do that. But hopefully I'll find the title of this video while I'm in it, or you guys can suggest a title and I can retroactively change it. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. In any case, there's a B patch coming out today, probably. Mort said in a tweet today, let me read exactly what he said. The current patch is in this category. He's talking about like a bad patch. And we're actively going through this process right now to get things in a better state, likely an update later today on when you can expect changes. And this is actually really important because in NA, the Tactician's Trials, which I'm going to be playing in, are a little bit later this week. They're on this weekend. They start Saturday, and today's Thursday. So if you know it takes until Friday for a B patch to come out, then we're basically playing on a patch that is 1 day old to play a tournament, which is pretty difficult. You know, for some people like playing on new patches. It complements their playstyle and stuff like that. Other people, not so much. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about where TFT's at, because, you know, we had a B patch this patch, we had a B patch last patch, which I honestly have to jog my memory on what was in the B patch last patch. So let me pull it up. Mid-patch updates. Right, they had Blue Kale that came out, which was immediately insanely broken. They had to hotfix Buff Bard back last patch because he was so unplayable. They had to hotfix Nerf Yone because Yone was absolutely destroying everything. They had to hotfix get rid of everything. No, they re-enabled everything must go, which actually, you know, ended up being not amazing. And they also had to hotfix remove Twin Terror because of how strong it was with the Lux changes. So far, we're 2 patches into this set, and both patches requiring a pretty much instant B patch because some stuff is really out of line, it's not great, I would say, you know, from a balancing perspective. And look, I am not a Riot Games flamer. I absolutely love TFT. This is the greatest strategy game I've ever played in my entire life, and I will continue to dedicate, I mean, not my complete life because I have a job outside of this, but I mean, if I could do full-time TFT, I would, because the game is that damn good. And the fact that we get a B patch, the second that there is, you know, a sniff of something bad here, we see that Gnar is overpowered, we see that Kai'Sa is overpowered, we see that Twin Terror was overpowered. Like, the fact that we have that and then we immediately have a B patch the next day probably is amazing. You know, it's incredible that the devs put in this much effort into this game. There are a lot of games where if the meta was like this, people would say, well, we got another patch in 2 weeks, I guess we're doing this for 2 weeks. And that's how it used to be back in the day, right? War Week. I wasn't really playing much at the time, but, you know, the name suggests that Warwick, this was set, what was that, 4 maybe with Chosens, I think, was broken for, I guess, at least an entire week. You know, TFT boomers can tell me the actuality of it, but I mean, I assume it was, you know, a week long. And we've gone from that to much shorter, broken sort of like lengths of time, you know, where we had this patch, you know, like the 14.7 B patch came out pretty quickly. I don't know if it was a day or 2 after, but it was pretty quickly. I remember the Draven meta in set 9, where the Draven hero augments were just giga broken for like a day. It was legit like a day. Everyone for a day was 3-starring 4 costs every single game, and then by the next day it was out of the game, because Riot knew that this was an issue. The TFT dev team puts an insane amount of effort into the game, into balancing the game. Ooh, support out of Manville. And so, I mean, we got to a healthier state after that. And obviously, you know, that set. Enough said about 9.5. We will not talk about 9.5, but, you know, they did their best to get to a healthy state. But as an optimist, I feel like, you know, I love TFT. I'm always talking about how good TFT is. You know, Demasian Raptor came into my chat yesterday, and he was, you know, he was having a time about this patch. He was like, my God, he was yapping a bit. And he came into my chat and was like, do you enjoy this patch? And I hedged a little bit. I was like, I don't love this patch, but I love TFT. TFT is an amazing game. And so just at the end of the day, getting to play TFT makes me happy. When I can queue up for a game and play this beautiful game that Riot and Mortog and the entire dev team has created, I'm happy. So even if it's not the best patch, I'm okay with that because I enjoy playing TFT. That being said, this isn't the best patch. And one thing that I wanted to talk about, as I said, because I'm such, like, I feel like it's my space to say, I'm not someone who yaps a lot. You know, I am very, very optimistic about the state of the game, about, you know, just TFT in general. So I feel like it's fair for me to say that things have definitely been a little bit off so far this set, balance-wise. Requiring 2 B patches immediately, it's not that crazy, but just the level of brokenness of things that were obviously going to be broken is a little bit odd. You know, you go back to the 14.7 patch. When those units were buffed, when Starweaver was buffed so hard, Clement Chu, this guy who puts out a lot of like tech from other regions, he's got an incredible Twitter account. He said, like, people in China are already playing Blue Kale a lot, and we're just giga buffing Blue Kale. Like, this will be broken after the patch. Guess what? It was giga broken after the patch. Like, it's kind of obvious sometimes what the broken thing will be, and that is my main objection. TFT is not an easy game to balance, and there are things in TFT, like, you can't know every single thing that's going to happen, even with, you know, Riot Games does, like, sims, you know, they like, have, like, fights, trying to figure out, like, how to, you know, like, how strong comps will be after buffs and after nerfs. Like, they do those in-house, and they try to gauge how strong a comp will be. Ooh, and we have this Lilia Nautilus pair here. If only, I mean, like, Lilia is a great example, actually, where this is a unit where I saw the Lilia buffs, and I thought she was going to be quite strong. And if you look at the stats, she's the worst 4-cost. So it's hard to know, you know, perfectly what is going to be weak, what is going to be strong. And I'm not surprised that there are things that are out of line when these patches come out. Because like I said, I thought Lilia was going to be strong. I didn't even realize that Gnar is going to be such an issue. That's partially because I kind of misunderstood how the Gnar changes worked, which, I mean, my bad. Reading comprehension diff. I mean, I'm a TFT player. I can't read. That's fair. But there were some obvious things even in this patch. You know, I talked about last patch about the Storyweaver thing that was pretty obvious to a lot of people that it was going to be broken who were in the know. You think about this patch, you think about stuff like Built Different. The second that Mortog put out his tweet about these changes, that they're going to be buffing all the 4-costs, everyone in my chat was like, well, Built Different's just going to be broken, right? They have to compensation nerf Built Different, right? They didn't touch Built Different at all. And that's a small thing, but it's an obvious thing. That is, we saw the changes. We didn't have to sim out any fights or anything like that. We saw the changes and said, well, obviously this augment's going to be broken because you play 8 4-costs on the board for Built Different, and all of those 4-costs are getting buffed. Something like that happening where there's such an obvious issue and it's not touched whatsoever is kind of odd to me, and I don't really understand how that happens. And I know TFT is a complex game. I'm not saying that every patch should come out and it should be beautiful and it should be perfect. Another example of like where it's difficult is this patch. Kog'Maw went from like a pretty good comp to just like terrible tier in the stats. Why did that happen? I guess because Lilia and Nautilus aren't that strong compared to the other 4-costs relatively. Buffing 4-cost HP also makes it harder for Kog'Maw to get through frontline and then get to backline. He has to waste more time on frontline, so then he can't start sniping backline. It also makes backline more tanky, so it's hard for him to just snipe and kill backline easily. I guess that's why. But that's really, really hard to know in hindsight. Like, maybe you can figure that out if you're a genius, if you're a TFT beast. But I did not predict that Kog'Maw would go from like A tier to like C tier from one patch that didn't even touch the Kog'Maw. It didn't touch Kog'Maw. It didn't touch like the units that you're rerolling for 3 stars. So I'm not upset about stuff like that. And I'm not really upset at all, really, because when they're B-patching immediately, I just kind of want to start a dialogue about this because I like doing these kind of videos where I talk, and I just, after this B-patch happening, like, I feel like it's worth addressing for sure. And, you know, once, absolutely, you know, no flame to Riot, please. You know, there are people out there who say some messed up stuff to Riot devs. They're doing their best. The fact that we're getting a B-patch one day after this is incredible, so please do not flame Riot. I think they do an incredible job. In general, I'm just a little bit surprised about some things that, you know, happened this patch and that have happened last patch. So that's one thing, is just sort of like obvious things like that kind of slipping through the cracks. I'm surprised that obvious stuff like that slips through the cracks, especially because Riot has been quite good in the past. You know, I think set 10, there were definitely things that slipped through the cracks in set 10, but it really wasn't bad. You know, for each patch, there was a good amount of viable things. There were very few patches that were just like, this patch is like horrible overall. Obviously, you know, every set's gonna, no set is going to be, every single patch is beautiful, and we just go from slightly optimized, you know, like, oh, there's 6 comps viable, and then there's 8 comps viable, and then there's 10 comps viable, and then by the end of the set, there's 50 comps viable, and the game is perfect. Like, that's never going to happen in TFT, because there are oversights. It's a difficult game to balance. There's also huge time constraints, which is, I think, one of the things that Mort wanted to touch on in his tweet, where, you know, they are looking at 3 a.m. when the patch comes out. They're looking and seeing, okay, what is out of line, and by noon they have to figure out, do we need to be patch, which is pretty crazy. You basically get the morning, just the morning, the super early morning. I don't know how many people are even up that early. You know, I don't know when Mortog wakes up. My intuition is that he probably wakes up really early because he's, you know, such a hard worker and does all that kind of stuff. But, you know, or the set leads, like, I don't know when the set leads are waking up. But you basically have, you know, a few hours in the morning to determine, okay, is stuff out of line? Do we need a B patch? And, you know, in this case, it seemed relatively reasonable that we should have like a B patch here. But that is a minuscule amount of time to make a decision. So I think that is probably where these issues come from. That is probably the source of these issues, where, you know, it's, people are like, how does this stuff happen? You know, it's kind of like how did this stuff slip through the cracks, and like, how do we get, you know, a B patch that isn't perfect, blah blah blah. It's because of these time constraints, right? If the dev team had infinite time, we would have perfect patches every time, and they would be able to find all this stuff. And that in my opinion can be the only answer, is that, you know, it's a timing issue, because I do not think with infinite time that you could miss that Build Different is going to be one of the best augments in the game. That Build Different obviously needs to be nerfed. A few other things, you know, this patch that I think were pretty obvious, you know, in hindsight, but also in, not even in hindsight, in pre-sight. I guess sight. No, it's not just sight, because sight is in the now. But, you know, like the Xayah, they basically buffed Xayah. In the patch notes, it even says when you have Trickshot in, they're essentially buffing Xayah's damage by 10%. That is an insane buff to a unit that was already quite strong prior to the patch. And she didn't receive any compensation nerf. She got a little bit of extra HP because they were buffing all the 5 costs. But to receive no compensation nerf to Xayah, I think is pretty crazy. To barely to nerf Kai'Sa a little bit, I mean, she was really out of line last patch. And to just a little slap on the wrist to Kai'Sa, I think that's a little bit crazy. The fact that they actually even, I'm actually surprised about this as well. This is something I want to talk to as well, is that the recosts were dominating the meta last patch, and they basically said, we're just not going to have 3-cost reroll be a thing anymore. Like, we are going to make it very, very difficult to play 3-cost reroll, to the point where you need an insane spot or you cannot play 3-cost reroll because of the odds changes, because of the changes to Titans, because of the nerfs to, like, a lot of the units. They basically took 3-cost reroll out of the meta in one patch, which also, to me, is a little bit insane. And I'm kind of surprised by that. I think they wanted, you know, to shake things up for... They wanted to fix things because 3-cost was so dominant last patch, but still, that is such an extreme change. So it's strange to me that I feel like in some areas they go really, really crazy. You know, the 3-cost changes were a ton. And then in some other areas, they barely touched units at all, like the Kai'Sa, like the Xayah setup. So yeah, I guess this is all just to say, you know, this is kind of a free-form stream of consciousness video, but all of this to say, I don't really understand what the balancing philosophy is right now and how we get to some of these balancing decisions, like, you know, barely touching these units that were pretty likely to be very strong, and just absolutely destroying units that you know, we knew that after the, you know, Dish Soap made a tweet. This is something else that I wanted to pull up, but, you know, Dish Soap tweeted when he read the patch notes, prediction with current PvE numbers, all reroll is dead next patch. Now, he didn't predict that Gnar would be broken, but he's pretty much correct. Outside of Gnar, all reroll is dead here. And he says he's like actually fine playing around this. You know, it's fun to play around a flexible 4-cost meta, but I don't really think it's in Riot's best interest to just kill off 3-cost reroll. I don't think that's good balancing to just immediately destroy the ability for people to play the game in a reroll, in a 3-cost reroll way. It's kind of, or even just all reroll, because, you know, he says all reroll, and he's kind of right. So yeah, I mean, I've said a lot. I've spoken a lot of feelings, and I don't have like a beautiful thesis statement to this video to say we're going from point A to point B to point C. But I do just, it's stuff that I find strange. One more like balancing thing that I want to yap about, because it's my right. It is my right to yap, because I almost never yap. So I feel like I get to yap a little bit here in spots like this. Please, please, my prayer for this B patch, please nerf Fortune, please. This is just a completely unreasonable trait when played well, and the only reason why it's not more dominant is because people are bad at it. I'm bad at it. I am not good at Fortune, and I understand that. If I was better at Fortune, I would be playing this so frequently, and like I'm okay at it. I'm not amazing at it, but I'm okay at it, and like I still like, I do pretty well with it, you know. Please, because that is the next thing. I'll call my shot. I will shoot my shot right here. If there is a B patch and Fortune is not touched, we are going to be in an insane Fortune meta where Fortune is going to be the premier. It's going to be back to like levels of like Heartsteel meta, where, you know, if people can get early Heartsteel, and it's not even really early Heartsteel, it's stage 3 Fortune that we need to worry about, but if people can get to that, it's going to be really difficult to play the game. So Riot Games, Mort Dog here, you know, I mean, Mort doesn't watch my videos, I think, but Kent watches my videos, which I mean, Kent, I love you if you're watching right now, and I appreciate you not turning off the video because I'm like flaming Riot a little bit. But I'm trying to be nice in my flame because I love this game. This game is so freaking good. But if you're watching this video now and there is no, I mean, I don't think Kent's even like doing that much on this set, but if anyone at Riot is listening, and there's no change to Fortune, like this is I'm shooting my shot saying that was an obvious issue that is going to be broken if you don't touch it. And if we get a B patch here that doesn't touch Fortune, and it's funny because like in previous sets, I was a lot more like chill about this, I feel, because I trusted Riot to do what's right, and I still do generally. I don't think they're gonna like destroy the game and release horrible patches or anything like that, but I am a little bit afraid. Every time there's a patch that's out of line and something's obviously out of line, I get a little bit more afraid, right? And you know, this patch made me a little bit more afraid that, you know, then the next patch, the B patch, is they're not going to address the broken things. And so I really hope that that is not the case, and that we get a nerf. You need to nerf the Fortune loot tables, because they nerfed 5 Fortune. That doesn't really matter. 3 Fortune is all you need to get the Fortune stacks. We just need to nerf the loot tables a bit and make it so you don't get such insane rewards for playing Fortune, especially because we changed player damage. But yeah, these are my thoughts. I know this was very unorganized and me just saying a bunch of random stuff, but, you know, let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm sure there will be some yapping. Please don't yap too much, guys. Like they do it. Riot Games does an incredible job with this game, and TFT is so freaking good, and I love TFT, but obviously some stuff's out of line. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and Prage that this is a perfect B patch and we get a great patch and I can play a tournament on a really fun patch instead of a patch where there's like 2 viable comps. All right, I will see you guys later. Yeah, I love TFT. I love TFT. I wouldn't make these videos. I wouldn't stream. I wouldn't do all this stuff if I didn't love TFT. So that's my takeaway, is that I love TFT, and that even on a bad patch, I still have faith in the game and I still love the game, and like ain't no way I'm quitting this and going to play Magic the Gathering. Like, come on. Okay, bye.